It's been over 1,000 days since I had any forced time off running due to injury, or at least it had been until an unremarkable Tuesday track session about 2 weeks ago where I pulled the plug early thinking I was being sensible and avoiding doing something that was going to cause me to miss any future training. It turns out that ship had already sailed, so let's talk about what happened, what mistakes I made to end a 3-year uninjured streak, how I've been keeping fit since, and what's next. So this story starts in December of 2022. I'm a naive 26-year-old who can't stand on one leg without shifting his weight elsewhere. Do I stop running? Of course not, because I don't get injured. Well, it turns out I do get injured, and I dropped out of my first ever race at the Telford 10k. Glute med tendinitis puts me out of running from the 11th of December 2022 to the 1st of February 2023. After that, life is good. I prioritise my strength work, I run a PB in every distance that I race, and my 3 years of no injuries culminates in a return to Telford. If you haven't watched that video, you definitely should. I won't spoil the result here, but let's just say that I redeemed myself. So where did it all go wrong? Well, about 9 days after Telford, I had a double session. I had 5x5 minutes at Threshold in the morning, and I had a hard track session in the afternoon. This is a fairly standard double day and very similar to a lot of stuff that I was doing in the spring and early summer. The morning Threshold went really well, potentially my best Threshold session ever, or at least up there. Although I hadn't been feeling my best before Telford, running 30 seconds quicker than I thought I could really gave me a confidence boost that had pushed me on to a new level, so I wasn't that surprised by how well this went. After the session, I went home, I ate well, I had a nap, and got ready for my afternoon track session, which was 6x400 and 6x300 with 90 seconds recovery between reps and 8 minutes recovery between sets. I found this really hard, which is how I always feel sessions that are this intense. And funnily enough, this clip that I always use when I'm talking about running being really hard is from this exact session in April. So I get started on the session and it's hard. I'm not running as fast as I would like, but that's fine. I can deal with that. You're not always going to be at your best, hitting amazing splits. And sometimes it's just about getting really good, really hard work in. But in the first 100 metres of the fourth 400 metre rep, I start to feel some slight discomfort in my left hamstring. This seems to ease before I reach the 200 metre mark, and I think it's just a bit of tightness. The exact same thing happens again on the 5th and 6th 400 metre rep, but I'm thinking that it's easing as I go, so it really can't be that bad. I take my 8-minute set recovery, and after about 5 minutes, I do a light jog to keep things moving, and at that point it's quite obvious that the hamstring isn't happy. I try a bit of a faster stride, and it definitely doesn't feel great, but I know that I can do the next rep, so I decide to just get started on the first 300, and if it feels worse, I'll stop. So I go off for my first 300 metre rep, and the exact same thing happens again. I've got a little bit of discomfort in the first 100 metres that has completely eased by the 200 metre mark. So I'm running around thinking, okay, this isn't great, but I think it's fine. I think that it's just a little bit of a niggle, and you can't necessarily stop for every niggle. However, on the very last step of this 300 metre rep, the discomfort comes back, and it's no worse than it had been, but even though it doesn't feel worse, the fact that it's came back is enough for me to decide that I've had enough. I stop the watch and I send my coach this picture of me pointing at the exact spot that's causing issue. I did a 2-minute jog warm down, and although it didn't feel great, I still think I've been very sensible and just stopped early enough so that it didn't pop and cause me to miss any future mileage. Unfortunately, my coach knew differently. He's a retired GP and has many years of experience with coaching many athletes, and he was pretty certain that I had a grade 1 hamstring tear. This meant no anti-inflammatories, no massage, no saunas, and most importantly, no running for at least a few days. This all happened on the 23rd of December, and within an hour of the session, he'd already made the call that we weren't going to run the 3k indoors on the 4th of January, and I was fine with this. anything to make sure that we get to Valencia 10k on the 11th of January, as fit as possible, I said, and he agreed. Well, it's the weekend of the 11th of January as I'm releasing this video, and if you follow me on Strava, you'll know that I am not in Valencia, I am in Glasgow, where it's currently 1 degree. So what did I do wrong and what's happened since? Well, there's likely a few bad decisions that led me here. First of all, I absolutely love an easy Monday. That's a day where I just do one run, 30 to 45 minutes, very easy. I don't do anything else, no gym, strength work, and I don't do a second run. It really resets me for the week, gets me ready to go, and I feel like I always need that. However, because it was Christmas week and I knew that the gyms would be closed later on, and I knew that I didn't want to double on Christmas Day, I got up nice and early, went out for a run, and then I went Christmas shopping for about 8 hours. Once I came back, I went for a double, went to the gym, and went for a sauna. So I was already going into this Tuesday double session day a lot more tired than I normally would have been. And then when I really look into the specifics, I did the threshold session in the morning. And although quite often I have done it this way, where I do threshold in the morning and a harder session in the afternoon, actually the last time that I did this 6-4s and 6-3s session, which is the most intense, fastest session that I do, I did the hard session in the morning and did the threshold in the afternoon. So I really was just getting to that track session a little bit over fatigued. The final big mistake that I can think of that could have played some part in this is that because this was an afternoon session, I didn't really feel like sitting in the car for 45 minutes in rush hour traffic to drive to the indoor track. So I just went to my local outdoor track, and although it was a nice night for the 23rd of December, it was still like 6 degrees, which is a lot cooler than the indoor track that I've been doing all my hard sessions in recently. I'm sure I've done more stupid things that could be to blame for this, but those are probably the main ones and the ones that I've really took some lessons from. So let's move on to what's happened since. The next day I woke up and I could feel it walking. Not good, but we had planned a few days off running anyway, enjoying Christmas and not thinking about the fact that I couldn't do the one thing that I actually like to do. On the third day post-injury, I tried a test run and pretty much the whole way felt similar discomfort to I had felt on the track. So I stopped and walked home after 5 minutes. Still not good. The day after that, I went to Tenerife on a conveniently timed, pre-planned holiday with Holly and her parents. And I had a lovely time. On day 6 post-injury, I tried my second test run, and for the first few minutes, it felt perfect. And then the slight discomfort started to creep back in, and I thought this was fine, kind of to be expected. On this run, I had a lot of niggles all over the place, and if I'd stopped for all of them, I would not have got very far. So I just kept running, but then just after the mile mark, I got a sharper pain in my hamstring, so stopped the run immediately before even reaching 9 minutes. Pretty much immediately after this run, I started to convince myself that I was imagining all of this and sent these quite funny messages to my coach. Shout out to my coach Lewis. It's been a year and a half since I moved to him and I've run a PB in every distance that we've raced, and he puts up with me being like this. It was at this point, 13 days before the Valencia 10k, when I couldn't even jog for 9 minutes, that we decided that it wasn't going to happen. Obviously, I was gutted, but I've made the mistake of trying to power through injuries in the past, and I wasn't going to ruin my 2026 before it had even begun for the sake of one race. So what have I been doing to make sure that I get back as quickly and as fit as possible? Well, immediately after the injury, I started icing 4 times a day. Then after a few days, I started doing pretty much daily hamstring exercises to make sure that they're strong enough to handle a return. I've also been cross-training pretty hard. As much fun as I was having in Tenerife over New Year, I still managed to get 12 hours of cross-training into the week. This included 6 hard sessions where I was just doing whatever I felt like. It's actually been quite nice being able to decide what sessions I want to do when I wake up in the morning, and just getting on the elliptical or the bike and working hard. My approach has been to double session every 2 days, and I'm generally looking for around 40 minutes of hard work, both in the morning and in the afternoon. You can definitely handle more volume cross training than you can running because you don't have that load impact, and I've been doing my best to take advantage of that. In terms of effort on these sessions, I'm trying to sit somewhere around threshold, but sometimes I'm just deciding that I want to go a bit harder, and I'm always keeping an eye on the heart rate to make sure that I'm doing enough and not being soft. And on Monday of this week, after 12 days of pretty much no running, I managed my first successful test run. I ran 4 miles at 7:20 per mile, and it felt completely terrible, but I did it. I didn't have any hamstring issues, and I've been able to run every day since, building up the distance, with my first session planned for tomorrow at time of filming. I'm pretty sure I haven't actually lost any fitness, and my coach reckons that I've increased my fitness through cross training. So really the trick now is going to be reminding the body how to run efficiently and getting back into full training as quickly and as safely as possible. Until then, I'll still be topping up volume on the elliptical and the bike and strengthening my hamstrings as much as possible. At the moment, race plans are still up in the air and will depend on how things progress over the next week or so. After the Valencia 10k, I had planned the Armagh 5k on the 12th of February and the Bath Half on the 15th of March. I'm confident that I'll be fit and ready to go for Bath, but whether or not I can get enough speed work in to do myself justice over the 5k in a month's time remains to be seen. If you want to follow the journey back to full fitness, subscribe, and I will see you next week. Cheers!